Well, if we look at this from strictly a financial planning point of view, let's say you currently owed $50,000. What if your hours were cut at work and you found that you could only afford $1,000 a month, but your minimum payments were currently $1,500 a month? It really doesn't do you any good to just pay your creditors $1,000 a month. Your balance would actually be growing at that point, not to mention that they would hit you with default interest rates of 25 to 30%, plus late and over the limit charges would also be added to what you owe. So if you find yourself in a situation where you cannot afford your minimum payments, but you can afford something, then debt settlement might make a lot of sense for you. Now this is where the monthly cash savings will be coming from. Instead of sending the creditors the $1,000 every month and getting further and further behind, with debt settlement you can make that $1,000 work smarter for you by saving the money every month to apply towards an eventual settlement. The end result would be if the creditors agree to accept $25,000 as a settlement, then at $1,000 a month you could literally save that money in about 2 years. Now to be clear, I've oversimplified this example. You will actually be settling your debts one creditor at a time as you save the money. You will not wait for 2 years and then settle all of your debts at one time. So now you should have a good understanding of the concept of debt settlement. If you're in a situation where you do not have access to lump sums of money, or you cannot afford to set aside a reasonable amount of money each and every month, then debt settlement is not a realistic option for you. So how long should debt settlement take? My general rule of thumb on the length of time is about 2 years or less. Now does this mean if it will take you 30 months to save up enough money to settle your debt, then it's not possible? No, it's certainly possible, and it's probably better than the alternative of filing bankruptcy, but in my experience, 2 years is really about as long as you want to stretch this out, if at all possible. Now you may say to yourself, well, I've talked to XYZ settlement company and they have a program that I can afford that will last 4 or even 5 years. I'm very well aware of programs like that are out there. Unfortunately, it would seem that companies that offer those programs tend to care more about the commissions they're going to make from you than actually helping you out of your situation. Why would a creditor wait 4 or 5 years to get paid the money that you owe them? The answer is they probably won't. The longer it takes you to pay a creditor, the higher the likelihood that your account could progress to litigation. In many states, creditors only have 4 years to bring a lawsuit on an unpaid debt. So clearly they'll not want to wait 4 years for the chance to get paid, because then they lose their ability to enforce the collection through the courts. So in my opinion, you want to have a plan to get all of your debts settled within 2 years, and it should never be longer than 3 years. If a debt settlement company is offering you a program that is longer than that, well, then it would seem that they care more about collecting fees from you than being upfront and honest about your chances of a successful outcome. Now, let me take a second to address the possibility of a creditor filing a lawsuit to enforce collection on a debt, because there's a lot of information and misinformation floating around the internet about this. When you do not pay your bills, there's always a chance that a creditor could use the courts to enforce collection. The best way to prevent this is to come to an agreement and settle your debts as quickly as possible. If you can no longer afford to pay your bills, then you are running the risk of being sued whether you're attempting to settle your debts or not. So if you are in this situation, settlement in a timely manner can actually dramatically reduce your chances of being sued by a creditor, because once the debt is settled, it's finished. In my experience, a creditor would much rather prefer a voluntary settlement than having to spend more money using the courts. After all, the main purpose of filing a lawsuit is to get you to send them some money. So if you can accomplish that, and they can do that without the time and expense of the court, they would certainly much rather do that. Now, I know the threat of a potential lawsuit is scary, but the reality is that they don't occur very often, especially when a settlement can be reached within a 2-year period. Now, even if a lawsuit should happen, settlement is still possible both during and even after a lawsuit. Once in a while, I'll get a phone call from somebody that just quite simply ignored a credit card debt for a few years and one day found that they were served with a lawsuit because they never contacted the creditor or attempted to come to any agreement to pay the bill. Many times we're able to contact the attorney and work out a settlement agreement for the client and get the attorney to dismiss the lawsuit. The reason attorneys will do this is because, again, they don't want to file a suit and spend more time and money collecting a debt. They just want to get paid. This is why it's so important to have a plan to settle all of your debts as quickly as possible. Now, let's talk about the drawbacks to debt settlement. If you are going to get a tremendous benefit by getting out from under your debt and saving thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, there are going to have to be some drawbacks. When researching debt settlement companies, you should be highly skeptical of any company that gives you what I call the peaches and cream version of debt settlement. Now, you can recognize the peaches and cream version of settlement because it just sounds so good. It's almost as if all you have to do is give this company a lot of your money, and they will stop all of the phone calls, so we're going to work out deals with your creditors right away, and all of your troubles will just magically melt away. They make it sound like they have some sort of program worked out with your creditors, and you'll just pay money each and every month and have absolutely no hassles. Just hurry up and sign up right now. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's simply not how debt settlement works. And anyone that tells you that either doesn't know what they're talking about, or even worse, they are well aware of what they're talking about, but they're simply telling you what they think you want to hear. Either way, this is not a company that you should entrust your financial future to. Do not confuse debt settlement with consumer credit counseling. They are both very different approaches, each with their own benefits and drawbacks. Deciding which one is the best choice for you requires an understanding of your current situation and what it is you're trying to accomplish. The reality is debt settlement has drawbacks. It will damage your FICO score for a while. You'll get some phone calls from your creditors. If you can't handle either of these two things, then debt settlement is not the right solution for you. If someone tells you that these things won't happen because they have a special program, well, then they are just not